This is the Vic Feazell Show podcast, hosted by Vic Feazell and Jonathan Zimick. Sponsored by Moroso Wood-Fired Pizza, Pinewood Coffee Bar, and the law offices of Vic Feazell.
Vic, what's the Vic Feazell podcast show all about?
This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to listen to. The reason we haven't given it a title other than the Vic Feazell Show is because it's going to cover a broad area. I've been working with you, Jonathan, on what these areas are going to be. It's going to be modular, and you can pick which module you want. And we'll be talking about everything from serial killers to enlightenment. Seriously, that broad a range. We'll be talking about Henry Lucas in the beginning, because I think that's where most of the interest will be, in the very beginning. And then there's a lot of interest in the Lake Waco triple murder. And I prosecuted all of those. And they involved Truman Simons, who is also involved in the Henry Lee Lucas thing. That'll be a fun one. A lot of people interested in that. I'm hoping we'll be able to get Carlton Stowers on.
Oh, that'd be incredible.
Oh, yeah. Carlton Stowers wrote the book Careless Whispers. That book has won so many awards, it's incredible. He wrote that book in the 1980s, and it is still in print.
Is it really?
It is. They don't make the hardbacks anymore, but it is still in print. People are still ordering that book.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, no, right here in Waco, didn't they just have there's a book club, right? And they just read it?
There is, and they read Careless Whispers, and they invited me and Truman to come over to their club. That's happened a few times over the years.
That's cool.
Yeah. And we walk in, and they're just like, "Oh, we're so glad to meet you." And Truman and I are looking at each other like, we don't get it. We don't get it. Carlton wrote a really good book. Good book. And there are a lot of stories there. And a lot of stories that aren't even in the book. Now, I'm encouraging everyone to read the book. But we're going to tell some behind-the-scenes stuff that didn't make the book.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I'm excited.
I'm excited. And then from there, we're going to go into talking about other murder cases. Other things of interest, not just around Waco, but around the country. In particular, some of the cases that Henry Lucas confessed to, and the cases were cleared. They were basically closed, and they're sitting in a file cabinet somewhere with closed case stamped on it. And it's not closed, because Henry Lucas didn't commit those crimes. You know?
Right.
And so we may start dissecting some of those cases, taking them one at a time, and looking at them. Looking at the confession, looking at the evidence, seeing what stacks up and what doesn't. We've got actual videos of Henry Lee Lucas's confessions. Oh, my God.
And audio.
And audio. So we'll be able to have some of the video on YouTube after we get going. And we'll be able to insert some of the audio into this podcast.
Yeah, we can dissect the confessions.
Dissect the confessions. Look at the evidence. Let the audience see what the Rangers saw, and let the audience decide, would I have let him take this case? I don't think so. I mean, it's going to be fun. I mean, especially some of them where, and how'd you kill her, Henry? Well, I think I shot her. You sure about that?
You sure?
You want to think? Well, I might have stabbed her. There you go, Henry.
Nailed it. See, he did it. He did it. He confessed to it.
He told us things only the killer could know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be taking those. And I would really like to just walk into the Lubbock Police Department with a camera and say, why won't you reopen this case?
Right.
Why are you trying to intimidate the family of this murder victim? What have you guys got to hide? I mean, it's been 30 years. Come on. Let it out.
Yeah.
Let us see it. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. But quit hiding it. You know, you're not going to do anything with it. Don't be the dog laying in the manger. Let the rest of us get to it. You know?
Wait. What does the dog laying in the manger do?
The dog is laying in the manger on top of that straw that those sheep and those cows would really like to be munching on.
Okay.
And he growls at them when they come up. No, you're not getting it. I'm not going to eat it, but I'm not going to let you eat it either. That's the dog in the manger.
Okay.
And that's what some of these police departments are doing right now. Well, I'm not going to investigate this case, but we're not going to let you look at it either. Why? We're living in this era today. I mean, someday historians will look back on this and call it the age of transparency, because that's all you ever hear anymore is transparency.
Yeah, you can't hide anything anymore.
Can't hide it. No. So let it out there.
The truth will be revealed.
It will.
On the Vic Feazell Show.
Yeah. Yeah. So that'd be fun.
We're also going to cover some of your Forrest Gump moments.
Yeah.
And some of your other murder cases while you're DA.
Yeah.
You've just got a lot of great stories.
Some of the wonderful people I've had the opportunity to meet.
Yes.
You know, and to have relationships with. Yeah, I got some.
David Koresh.
Yeah, I knew David when his name was Vernon. Yeah.
Vernon Koresh?
Vernon Howell.
Really? That was his real name?
That was his real name.
Of the Branch Davidians.
Of the Branch Davidians. And then he changed his name to David Koresh.
Trippy.
Of the Branch Davidians. Yes.
Trippy.
Not to be confused with all those other David Koreshes out there.
Koresh.
And one of my favorite parts, and we can start advertising this as soon as we get an email address, and you might already have one. But I'd like for our listeners to be able to email in their own questions.
Right, we can answer them in the podcast.
We won't necessarily answer them that day.
That live.
Right then, but yeah, we'll get to them. We will. And it doesn't even have to be a question. It could just be a comment. And, even if it's a mean, nasty comment, as long as it's funny, I'll read it.
Oh, man. Don't incite that.
No, I think some people might have some genuine insight and questions and things that maybe you and I are overlooking. And then, naturally my favorite would be one that I said, which is, you know what's going on here, and I'll still be proven right.
I think y'all know what's going on. What I've said all along, I'll still be proven right.
Yeah.
That's what I said when they were leading me away in handcuffs. And it took a long time, 30 years, for it to start happening, but finally it's happening. We were talking the other day, and the subject of the long game came up. We've been in this for the long game. It'll be fun.
It's going to be great. Plus, we're going to cover when the United States tried to frame you and throw a bunch of charges on you for exposing them for their corruption. And
when they arrested me, we can do a whole bunch of podcasts on U.S. v. Feazell.
Yeah, the tactics.
I remember when they brought me in to arraign me, they didn't take the handcuffs off of me. They put the handcuffs back on me to take me to the courtroom, like I was going to run or something. And when they called my case, they said, the United States of America versus Victor Fred Feazell. And I looked at Big Gary and I said, all 50 of them?
Oh, jeez.
He looked at me like, take this serious. Yeah, Gary's got some good stories. We're going to interview Gary.
Right.
Yeah, he's got some great stories. Yeah.
He'll be running the show before we know it.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, that's Gary. Yeah, I love him. Gary was my mentor. I learned a lot at Baylor Law School. Oh, my God, I had the best practice court professor, a guy named Matt Dawson. And I learned a lot from Matt Dawson. And then it was polished by Gary Richardson. Yeah, I learned a lot by working with him. Great lawyer.
Get him on the show.
Get him on the show. I'm so glad he was there that day. Yeah. But yeah, I said, all 50 of them?
Take it serious, Vic.
And then Victor Fred Feazell. The only time I've ever been called that was when I was in trouble with my mother.
That's funny. Gotta watch for the wooden spoon when you hear that name come down.
Oh, man, they had a big spoon, too.
Oh.
They did. They wanted to beat me with it.
Spoon of injustice.
Yes. They're going to slap me around with that big old spoon. Victor Fred Feazell. All 50 of us versus Victor Fred Feazell. Yeah, that was quite a ride. So we're going to be talking about that. And then we're going to talk about Vic Feazell versus Belo.
Excellent.
And talk about how Belo played in. Belo is the Belo Broadcasting Corporation. They own Channel 8 News in Dallas, the Dallas Morning News, and probably several other newspapers and 30 TV stations, at least last time I checked. Big company. They had one of the biggest law firms in Dallas. And here's little me and Gary going after him, man, and sued him for libel, and ended up getting the largest libel verdict in the history of the United States.
Which got you into the Guinness Book Book of World Records.
Guinness Book of World Records. Can you believe that?
That's cool. That's great.
This Leanderthal from Leander, Texas, made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. Yeah, it was quite a ride. It was tough. And one thing I want to talk about during all of that is how I managed to cope.
Yes.
Because most people couldn't have coped.
Yeah, you were under indictment. They were framing you. You knew you were right. You were still acting McLennan County District Attorney. You were trying murder cases.
Yeah,
That's a lot of stress, man.
Yeah, it was.
You're facing, what was it? It was life, right?
It would have been life. Yeah. It was 80 years of federal time. Yep, I don't know if I could have lived that long, you know?
Although you were the youngest DA. How old were you when you were elected DA here?
32. But I don't know if I was the youngest. There may have been some back in the Old West times that were younger than me.
The Old West.
Yeah. The Old Wild West, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. Like Truman says, you can mess with the whole world from Waco, Texas.
That's right.
So we'll be talking about Feazell v. Belo U.S. v. Victor Fred Feazell and how I coped. And when we start talking about how I coped with it, then I'm going to talk about things like breathing. Conscious breathing, something I started learning when I was 5 years old, just by accident. And so I used that to help keep me calm, keep the blood pressure down, keep my mind from running crazy, keep the thoughts and the fears from controlling me. I was on the phone just last month with the prosecutor who prosecuted me, a guy named Jack Friels. He's working for the DA's office in Laredo now. But he was the assistant U.S. attorney that prosecuted me, and he said, you were just always so calm. We did everything we could to get at you, and you never even flinched.
Never cracked.
And never did, yeah. And a lot of it was just faith and proper breathing. And then later in life, I've discovered yoga and what a great influence yoga is. So I want to do some talking about breathing and about yoga. And I want to talk about my friend MC Yogi, because we're going to play some of his music on this podcast. He's just a wonderful yoga teacher. I have some great pictures of me and him together in Sri Lanka doing yoga and attending a yoga conference. And he's a great artist and musician, too. Writes his own stuff, performs it.
Breathe deep. Deep breath. Inhale, exhale. To release the stress. Deep breath.
I'd love to get him to Waco.
That'd be great for VicFest.
What? Waco wakes up to yoga. Yeah. Let's have a concert down at Indian Springs Park. And yoga going on in all the studios. And his wife, Amanda, paints the most beautiful murals. And I'd like to see if we could entice her to paint a mural for us somewhere. If somebody has a good side of a building, they could
pony up.
They want to look beautiful and become a piece of art where everybody's going to go and get their picture taken.
I love it, like in Austin.
Yeah, and a few murals here in Waco. Waco's starting to get some good murals around town. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's one out on Industrial that it's not even a main street that I found a while back. I had a glass company there. Matter of fact, I've got some pictures of it. Maybe we can show later. And it's a great mural. Yeah.
So much to cover, so little time.
So much to cover. Oh man, we got forever. We can keep this going forever. And the great thing about a podcast is that you don't have to go turn on your radio at 8 o'clock and sit there for 30 minutes.
Right.
Go
to the gym, listen to Vic.
Yeah. Anytime.
You drive into work.
Anytime. Anywhere. And it's always there.
It's always there.
And you can go find what you want to listen to and listen to that module. If you want to just listen to Henry Lucas, just listen to that. If you want to just listen to the Lake Murders, just listen to that. And so choose what you want to listen to. You can find them, go back and forth. You can listen to all of them. Listen to them again. Listen to them 3 times. That'd be fun.
Love it. Plus, we have some great special guests getting lined up.
We do.
We have Hugh Ainsworth.
Hugh Ainsworth. He's really special. Hugh is a journalist. He's an expert on the Kennedy assassination. He was there when it happened. Wrote a great book about it. He was one of the only reporters that Ted Bundy would ever talk to. He wrote the book, The Only Living Witness, about Ted Bundy. I'd like to be able to sell those books along with Careless Whispers on our website. We might even be able to get those guys to autograph them. Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I've got.
I want one.
I have them.
You have them?
I have them, and I'm very happy to have them. And Carlton wrote the sweetest note in the front of mine. If we can get Carlton on the show, maybe I'll read that. But it's just really sweet. So yeah, Hugh with all that, and then Hugh with Henry Lucas. I want to talk to him about how did that come about? How is it you were invited in to be the only reporter getting to talk to Henry Lucas?
Seriously?
Yeah. And it was partly because of his reputation over Ted Bundy. We'll be hearing Hugh tell us about that. Hugh's a very interesting guy. This has been a story of epic proportion.
It is.
It spans decades. I love that quote from Martin Luther King. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And this has been a long arc, decades. And it's finally bending toward justice with these old confessions now getting solved and the real murderers being found.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
devil's advocate, all the murders that are still out there.
All the murders that are still out there. Kudos and props to the police departments that reopened the cases, that re-examined the DNA, that found the real killers. Especially up in Tyler, where they went back, re-examined the DNA again after I had represented Henry up there and gotten him off on DNA when it was a brand new science. And then about 5 years later, they can do the comparison again, and they get a hit. A known sex offender, a known murderer.
Wow.
And during the time that this case had been closed and they weren't trying to solve it, that guy had murdered another woman and raped a woman in front of her children. Unbelievable. And was still out free until they got him. I don't know how they got his DNA into the bank, but somehow they did. Must have been from a prior conviction.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's one that's solved. And so kudos to the DA up in Tyler back then. I don't recall his name right now, but I've got it written down. I'll go find it.
We should get him on the line here.
That'd be fun.
Talk about it. That'd be really cool.
Let's do that. I'll find his name and we'll reach out to him.
Let's do it.
Yep.
In my curiosity is, has anybody really to date brought any of this stuff up in a public forum? Because you got to think, in the numbers were roughly 3,000 confessed, 300 solved with the Rangers.
There have been programs about it, but they've been short little things that just go, it's like, hey, look what happened, and it's over.
But no one's done the follow-up.
No one's done any follow-up. Geraldo Rivera did a story on this back during the 90s. A&E has done something on it. Several of the big networks have done 30-minute and 1 hour shows about it. But nothing that would get the public fired up, Everybody leaves with the idea, gee, somebody ought to do something, you know? Okay, sure, somebody ought to do something. The problem is, who is that somebody? That somebody has not been defined.
Till now.
Well, it still hasn't been defined. Unless you and I are going to go do it.
Let's go do it.
Are they going to make us have to go do this ourselves?
I think so. Let's go solve them.
We need some sponsors then.
We do.
We need some people to sponsor us to help go solve some of these murders and get some of these police departments to open their files.
Yep.
We're a primary source podcast. We're different from the others. Other podcasts, they read about events and people and talk about them. We talk about events we've experienced. We talk about people we know. We're a primary source podcast. Thank you for listening to the Vic Feazell Show podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit us at www.vicfeazell.com for more information.